All right, what is going on, guys? interesting 3-game slate today. Still waiting on some news, and you know what? We're probably not going to get that news until like very, very close to the lock of the last game of the slate, which starts 3.5 hours after the original lock. So, you know, a lot of things going on. Dylan Brooks is out tomorrow. That's cool. Steven Adams questionable as well. All right. What's going on, Mitchell? What's going on, Alex, Sean, Jacob, Matt, Jeff, Kyle, Matt, Sergi? What is going on? Yeah, Nick Nurse. I mean, definitely interesting with that situation because we don't really know. You know, we already know that Precious Achiuwa is going to grab the start there, but a lot of times recently they've been okay. And even before the situation where Siakam was back and before Scotty Barnes was injured, you know, they were willing to run Scotty Barnes at the 5, which is somewhat concerning. And so it leads me to be somewhat skeptical on playing Precious Achiuwa. And, you know, I think that Bam Adebayo and Andre Drummond are such slam dunk plays today that you don't need to play Precious Achiuwa on Draftkings. I think you can use both those center spots for Drummond and Bam Adebayo. And yes, I still think Andre Drummond is too cheap. I think Drummond is closer to like a 9.5K, 10K player in this current situation, even with Tobias Harris back. I mean, the rebounding numbers should be through the roof. And like I mentioned earlier, with the willingness of the Toronto Raptors of going small, dude, I mean, Precious Achiuwa is small himself. Ken Birch is their biggest center, and he is not going to be playing in this game. So this is a severely undersized front court with the Raptors. And Andre Drummond, I mean, could easily get 20 boards again. And, you know, he could toss the ball around as well. Picks up stocks. I still think that he is entirely too cheap. Yes, V. So that's the thing. So if they do end up going small and playing Scotty Barnes at the 5, I think that opens up minutes for Svi Mikhailuk. And he is one of the sneakiest plays on the slate, in my opinion. I don't mind him. You know, he's an interesting pivot off the popular value guys like Duncan Robinson and PJ Tucker. But yeah, let's just go through game by game before I start jumping around a bit too much, so I have some structure to what I'm saying. And then we'll get into some PrizePicks plays as well. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Matt. But I mean, there's no Ken Birch, so good likelihood that we see some Scotty Barnes at the 5. Could also see some more Chris Boucher, but I doubt it. Boucher's been typically just playing the 4, not the 5. Bam questionable. So yeah, we'll get into that situation because the Miami thing really dictates the entire slate. But we did get some pieces of news throughout the day. So we'll start off with the Toronto Raptors versus the Philadelphia 76ers, a 210.5 over-under. 76ers are currently 3-point favorites. The Raptors are going to be without Pascal Siakam, Ken Birch, Yuta Watanabe. So Pascal Siakam has returned 2 games ago, played both those 2 games in a limited fashion. He is out today, and when he was starting, he bumped Precious Achiuwa to the bench. So we already got confirmation that Achiuwa is going to be back in the starting lineup. I still think that more times than not that he's probably going to play around 28 minutes. But I think that we see a lot of Scotty Barnes at the 5, which is going to open up more wing minutes for guys like Svi Mikhailuk, Delano Banton, Chris Boucher, but specifically Svi Mikhailuk. You know, I think he should have a pretty good time shooting from 3 in this game. He is only $3,500. You know, Nick Nurse has talked him up quite a bit as of recent. And then I think Gary Trent Jr. at $5,000, one of my favorite like mid-range guys in that 5K range, just because he's going to play 35 plus minutes in a normal situation when this game is competitive. So I don't mind him. I think OG Anunoby and Fred VanVleet are fine plays. Not guys that I'm going out of my way to target, but if you have enough money for those kind of guys, you know, I think filling them in is not the worst. Obviously, this Philadelphia matchup is a lot easier than it is when they are healthy. On the Sixers side, they're going to be without Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Isaiah Joe, Grant Riller, Matisse Thybulle, and then Tobias Harris is officially available to play, and then Seth Curry is currently questionable. A game time decision. This is the first game of the slate. I do expect Seth Curry to play in this game. It looks like he was pretty close to being available last game. But nonetheless, I think that he ends up playing, and then I think the rotation gets a bit deeper today, and then I'm not really considering anybody on this team outside of Andre Drummond at 8,600 because Seth Curry, Tobias Harris being back doesn't really affect all that much. He doesn't need a very high usage rate to destroy this price tag. I mean, he's gotten 25 and 20 boards in each of the last 2 games without Joel Embiid. Now he gets this incredibly small front court in the Toronto Raptors. He should be able to do whatever he wants against this front court. I'm very, very heavy on Andre Drummond today on FanDuel and Draftkings. I think people, if they're going to continue, if the ownership is going to continue to lower the higher the prices, I'm fine with that because I'm going to keep playing him. I think he should destroy this matchup. And yeah, now that he's $8,600, the ownership is going to plummet, especially with Bam Adebayo on the slate, which he's priced down to like $7,400, and I think a lot of people are going to play him. But that is if he even plays the game. If Seth Curry is ruled out on any off chance, I think Korkmaz, Milton, Maxey get a bit of a bump, but their prices are at the point where you don't need to play these guys. And then we're adding Tobias Harris to the mix as well, so a lot of minutes are going to go his way. Although he is coming off a pretty lengthy absence, so maybe he doesn't get exactly full run, and that's why I'm not considering him today. But it does eat into the minutes of the others on that Philadelphia team. Move over to the Indiana Pacers versus the Utah Jazz. This is going to be the lowest owned game of the of this slate, but for good reason. At 215.5 over under, the Jazz are currently 10-point favorites. I think there is serious blowout risk in this game. So they are going to be without TJ Warren, Isaiah Jackson, and Karis LeVert. TJ McConnell's been a monster lately. You know, it's kind of frustrating because we were all over him, and he was in even better opportunities and in spots, and he just didn't really pan out. Now he's coming off the bench with LeVert back and doing very well, but, you know, I'm not really considering him here. My favorite play from this Indiana team is going to be Malcolm Brogdon at $8,500. I like him on both sides. I like him more so over on FanDuel. He gets the best matchup out of everybody on the Pacers. You know, kind of a tough outing for guys like Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis, with Rudy Gobert kind of stuffing the paint. So I like Brogdon. If you're playing Brogdon, you probably want to bring it back with a Utah guy and vice versa, just because for these guys to be able to pay off their price tags, the game needs to be competitive. So I don't mind Malcolm Brogdon there. Tournament only option for me though. Move over to the Utah Jazz. They are going to be without Rudy Gay. Elijah Hughes is actually available to play right now. Donovan Mitchell to begin the year, just a massive usage rating, 35.5% to begin the year. Jordan Clarkson, 28.6%, which is second on the team, coming off the bench. I don't mind Mitchell and Clarkson, tournament only options for me. And again, like I mentioned with the Malcolm Brogdon side, if you guys are playing some of these Jazz guys, you're going to want to bring it back with a pacer. So my choice would be Brogdon. So if you guys want a nice little low owned mini stack for tournaments only, not cash games, it'd be like Mitchell, Clarkson, then bring it back with a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, but not really considering anybody in this game, in cash games at least, just because the guys in the first and last game especially is just so stacked. The value is crazy. The Miami Heat versus the Los Angeles Clippers at 211.5 over under. The Clippers are currently 3-point favorites, but actually let me check this because I'm pretty sure the line moved. I had the tab up. It is no longer up. Okay, so yeah, the Clippers are up to 6-point favorites right now. They moved from 1-point favorites to 5-point favorites. They moved pretty quickly after Jimmy Butler was ruled out, but it did creep from like 5.5 to 6 recently. So, you know, reading the tea leaves there, I think that there is somewhat of a chance that Bam Adebayo actually sits in this game. And if we want to talk about the injuries, the Heat are going to be without Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, Markieff Morris, Max Strus, and then Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo are officially questionable in this game. I think there is a somewhat decent chance Bam Adebayo ends up sitting in this game. Now, if Bam Adebayo ends up playing, I think he's like the best play on the slate. They have dropped his price. I think this price is pretty abysmal right here. Good matchup against the Clippers as well. And with no Jimmy Butler, the offense would entirely run through Bam Adebayo, Lowry, and Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero actually started the second half last game in the absence of Jimmy Butler after Jimmy Butler got hurt in the first half. So I'm going to be stacking this last game personally because and playing guys like Bam and Lowry and Hero, and then the obvious cheap values in Duncan Robinson and PJ Tucker. And if Bam Adebayo ends up sitting or something, I can just pivot to the other guys on the opposite side of the Clippers. And then I can get some other values in, because if Bam Adebayo ends up missing, you get guys like Dwayne Dedman, Omer Yurtseven. So there's going to be pivots. You might be leaving some salary, but I think that the production is going to be very, very condensed. Whether or not Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero end up playing, it's Hero off of the. No, he's not off yet. He's still questionable. I still think that. I think more times than not, Hero ends up playing. I think he's a lock. Kyle Lowry's not even on the injury report. He played 47 minutes last game in an overtime victory or loss to the Lakers. And then I think Bam Adebayo is more of a 50-50 chance to play. But, of course, there's going to be plenty of pivots in this same game. So I think the strategy is to just go ahead and play this slate as if everybody's going to be active on the Miami Heat. And then we'll make the pivots because you don't want to miss out on the value, because if they all end up playing, they're the best plays on the slate. And then if they end up missing, you're going to be able to pivot to the new best plays on the slate, which are going to be a lot lower owned if we get this news later, which is likely to happen because it's 3.5 hours after the original lock of this slate. On the Los Angeles Clippers side, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, Jason Preston are all out. Serge Ibaka was assigned to the G League. So this team is getting pretty thin right now. Most of this team on the G League squad right now. So very thin lineup for the Los Angeles Clippers. They've been running a tight rotation. They've been playing big as of recent. If you guys watched my video, I kind of went over it. The last 4 games, they have closed with a traditional center with Zubats. And Hartenstein has been getting into the mix as well. So I don't mind Zubats. I think he's an interesting choice at 5,100. If Bam Adebayo were to be ruled out, I think that he would be a pretty decent play. But, against Bam Adebayo in the Miami Heat, it would make sense for the Clippers to kind of go back to playing small ball with more of Batum at the 5. It just makes a lot more sense. I think Zubats would get absolutely tortured by Kyle Lowry and Bam Adebayo in the pick and roll. So that opens up minutes for guys like Terrence Mann, who has been closing in these games anyways. So I like him quite a bit. Eric Bledsoe, I think Luke Kennard has a good chance to play bigger minutes today if this game does go small. And then I think Paul George and Reggie Jackson up top are very good plays, especially Paul George. I think Paul George is the best spend-up option on the slate. I'm locking him in on both sides. I think he is in a very, very good spot against the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler, although I do think that PJ Tucker is probably going to run around chasing Paul George, but I don't think that is necessarily a problem for Paul George. PJ Tucker, a fine defender, but nothing that I'm really concerned about slowing down Paul George. And then Reggie Jackson, like I mentioned, should be playing 35 plus minutes in each of these competitive games. I think he's in a great spot. And with the Miami thing, I think it's fine on Draftkings to play 4, maybe even 5 guys from the Heat side because the value is there. They're just way too cheap for what they are with no Jimmy Butler, especially in this matchup against the Clippers. The Clippers just not a very good defensive team right now. That's pretty much where I stand, really just focusing on the first and third game, not really considering anybody in the second game. And then I'm just stacking the last game because even if we do get injury news, we'll be able to make pivots and I feel like we'll find an edge in doing that if Bam Adebayo and them are, in fact, ruled out. I'm assuming you are firing up Drummond instead. Then I am playing Andre Drummond for sure. Really don't think Bam is going to play. So, Bam has been dealing with this bruised knee for a long time, and they just continue to play him through. I think he's only sat 1 game. I'm expecting... I think it's like a 50-50 chance. I think there is a good chance that he sits. We'll have the pivots, of course, if that's the case. But, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. Lucky and Drum, no matter what, Bam doesn't affect that for me. Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, yeah, if you're playing Drummond and Bam Adebayo, which I think you should, make sure that Drummond is in your center spot and Bam Adebayo is in your utility spot so you have more flexibility. Yeah, if you're playing multiple Miami and Clippers guys, make sure to run them in your guard, forward, and utility spot. You're going to want to have that flexibility in the case that Bam Adebayo misses that game. Only thing about Bam and Hero getting downgraded to questionable, I've got a feeling that they both end up playing personally when else they have made them questionable right after the game last night. So, yeah, I mean, they're questionable with the same injuries that they had yesterday morning. And Bam, like I said, Bam has been dealing with his bruised knee for a while. The only reason that makes me somewhat skeptical that he would miss is the fact that, you know, Jimmy Butler's out, so maybe they just like call it a game and they just sit a couple of these guys just for rest, and the fact that it is a second leg of a back-to-back. That's the only reason that gives me any skepticism. If this was a normal game and they popped up on the injury report with the same bruised knee for Bam Adebayo, I wouldn't even be concerned. It's the fact that Jimmy Butler's already ruled out and that it's the second leg of a back-to-back. But although, you know, it doesn't seem like that big of a concern because this is the same injury he was dealing with yesterday. He played through it, and look what he did in the second half. So he dealt with severe foul trouble in the first half, and then he played this much in a row. So how long did he sit out right here? 11, 2. So, you know, he played the last, he only sat 2 minutes in the second half in overtime combined. So if he was really dealing with an injury that was really bothering him, I don't think that they would press his minutes this much. Just don't think that that would happen. Duncan Robinson, a lock. Yeah, Duncan Robinson. I think you need to be playing at least one of Duncan Robinson and PJ Tucker. You could definitely play both of them. I mean, you could play a ton of these Miami Heat guys. And Duncan Robinson is going to play massive minutes here. He played 40 minutes in regulation last game, and that was with Jimmy Butler playing the first quarter, not playing the last 3 quarters. Now he's going to be out the entire game. Duncan Robinson is going to play massive minutes today, all these guys are. Kyle Lowry is going to play massive minutes. He played 46 minutes yesterday. Played 41.5 minutes in regulation. You know, they needed these starters to keep the game competitive. And if Bam Adebayo ends up missing and Hero plays, like Hero, Kyle Lowry are going to have the most absurd usage ratings. I mean, Tyler Hero might have like a 40% usage rating if Bam Adebayo misses this game. Who's the cash plays in the first game? Drummond and Achua. From the first game, I mean, it's definitely Drummond. On the Toronto side, cash play, I mean, yeah, Precious is pretty volatile for me today. I think he's fine. And I think Gary Trent is a fine cash play as well at 5,000, given how much he's going to end up playing. You really think Bam is going to sit? I think that Bam is like a 50-50 to play. I actually lean that he plays. I would actually make it like a 60-40 that he plays. Sphere, Duncan already have Barnes and Precious. Duncan there for sure. This just is loose. Drummond, Bam, and George all locks. Yeah, pretty much for me right now. If Bam is out, is Tucker a lock? I think Tucker's a pretty damn near a lock regardless on DraftKings. FanDuel, you can get away with not playing him because you can only play 4 Heat guys. And Duncan Robinson is pretty clearly the preferred option to PJ Tucker for me personally. Terrence Mann or Chris Duarte. Ooh, that's tough. I'd probably go with Terrence Mann there. Hell yeah, Ray, you can switch Bam if needed. Robinson has to stay out of foul trouble, though. Everyone does. I don't think... I mean, Duncan Robinson, I'm not really concerned about foul trouble risk right there. It's PJ Tucker, a solid play, absolutely. I think Holiday is a sharp pivot off Duncan. They are both pretty much locked for big minutes. Think ownership will be a bit too high on Duncan. I think he isn't that different than Holiday. Nah, I think Duncan shoots way more than Justin. Way more. I mean, they could play similar minutes. I mean, but really Justin Holiday in this situation, like the high end is like 35 minutes. The high end for Duncan Robinson in this game is like 40. And I think that he hits that a good amount of times. Like, he's going to play a ton in this game. I think like a better pivot would be like Svi Mikhailuk, because I know Svi, when he's out there on the court, he's at least going to be shooting. Justin Holiday, not as much. Miami gonna hit us with a 14-man rotation. That'd be tough, man. They're running thin on bodies right now, though, so I don't know if they can do that. Bam and Tobias, or PG-13 and Jackson. Definitely the PG-13 side. PG, Svi, and Drummond, or Trent, Mitchell, and Fred VanVleet in cash games. I'm going to go with the PG side, Tobias, and PG-13. I'm not really on Tobias today. I don't really know what the minutes are going to be after his pretty lengthy absence. What do you think about Scotty Barnes? I think Scotty Barnes is in an interesting spot. Like, I like him in a vacuum. It's just unfortunate that... what was I even talking about? Oh, yeah. That his price is just up way too much for me on both the sides. I do think he's a fine play, though. It's just that price point is not very enticing for me. What is Andre? Andre's at 15.5 rebounds. That's so many rebounds. I think he gets it, though. I mean, he should be able to do whatever he wants in this matchup. Luke Kennard or Duncan Robinson on FanDuel. It's going to be Duncan for me. Scotty Barnes going to be in the optimal. We'll see, man. Robinson or Tucker. Robinson. Okay, DK, Lowry, Hero, PG, Tucker, Drummond, Svi, Duncan, and Bam. Run it. Like that, Roger. PrizePicks thoughts. Let's take a look at PrizePicks. Yeah, I was kind of hoping we would get news on some of these guys. Man, Shake Milton, 21 fantasy points. I guess if Seth is back, he won't play as much. But, man, I just really think that there is a decent chance that Shake Milton starts eating into Tyrese Maxey's minutes and the roles start flipping a little bit. If Seth Curry is ruled out, I wouldn't mind going to Shake Milton here or Furkan Korkmaz. We can look at some other ones. Yeah, when I saw the CJ McConnell projection at 26.5, kind of threw me off. But, man, he has been absolutely killing it. Yeah, I want to lean the over on 19 fantasy points for PJ Tucker, because he should, like, there's really no reason for Tucker to not play, like, 35 minutes in this game. But, man, is he just, like, a black hole for fantasy points. That dude does not score. I don't mind the Zubats under, because even though they have been playing big lately, it would just make a ton of sense for this game to run small. Like, so much sense. So I don't mind the under on Zubats right there. We'll click that in for right now. Chris Duarte over 22.5 is not too bad. Same with Gary Trent, actually. Gary Trent over 24.5. I mean, this guy's going to play big minutes. This is a good matchup, too. I'm going to take the over on Gary Trent. Let's find a guy that I'm very comfortable with. I want to take Drummond here, actually. Let's run a 2-pick right now. I'm going to run Andre Drummond over 41.5 fantasy points and Gary Trent over 24.5 fantasy points. Gary Trent Jr., man, he has been so good with the steals this year. He's had some pretty big steal games. I don't know if I can find it. I guess in the last 2 games, it kind of tailed off. But, man, before that, 5, 2, 2, 4, 3, 5, 0 the last couple games. And he started off the year with 3, 5, 1. So, you get 3 full fantasy points over here on PrizePicks. So I'm going to take the over Gary Trent Jr. 24.5 fantasy points with Andre Drummond 41.5 fantasy points. Okay. Are you concerned we'd lose to lineups on FanDuel that play other studs like Brogg, Mitchell, OG, etc.? If Bam and or Hero do sit, we'd have a lot of dead salary and pivots would be unlikely to match. Well, I mean, if they're ruled out, dude, it's going to create crazy value plays that are pretty comparable to the earlier plays, even if they are ruled out. But also, like, we're not drawing dead because of that, but we would draw dead if we just fade Bam and Tyler Hero and then they end up playing. Because if we fade those guys and they end up playing, we're just pretty much drawing dead, because those are by far the best plays on the slate. And I'll take my chances on them playing. And if they sit, I'm not drawing dead. There's still other pivots that we can make. I'm just not going to miss out on the best plays of the slate by trying to overthink it and just assume they're going to sit. If Bam is out, is Dedmon a lock? Yeah, Dedmon would be pretty much near a lock with no Bam Adebayo. But Gary Trent over 1.5 steals and blocks. I like it. Dude, yeah, he's been murdering the steals this year so far. George, Lowry, Hero, Bam, Drummond, and Robinson all locks for me in all entries if they're active. Yeah, for sure. Same here. Hero is not starting. Martin is starting. Yeah, that's no concern for me, even if that is the case. I mean, the second half of last game, they started Hero over Martin. But it doesn't really matter because we know what the rotation is going to be. Tyler Hero, it's going to be like this right here. So you see this in the first half. This happens pretty much every game. He will come in like midway through the first and third quarter, and then he'll just play the rest of the half. Like, that's what's going to happen. He's going to play big minutes regardless. So, I mean, if Tyler Hero comes off the bench and that lowers his ownership, please lower his ownership. Philly or Toronto tonight? Man, I really want to lead Toronto with dog money there. Yeah, I'll probably lean Toronto there with dog money. Extort. Earn them likes up, boys. Not even 20% of viewers have smashed it. Yeah, if you guys could drop a like, would really appreciate that. So the Sixers are going to start. Oh, Seth Curry is active. So Maxey, Curry, Green, Harrison, Drummond. Okay, so Curry is active. So I'm definitely off these guys a lot more than normal. And actually, I'm really considering the under on Tyrese Maxey because this team just got a whole lot healthier. A lot of shots are now going to be going the way of Curry and Tobias Harris. Drummond's going to take up some usage as well. And I think that since they are healthy, Shake Milton is not going to play nearly as much, if at all, next to Tyrese Maxey. So he's going to be eating into his minutes. So I'm going to take the under Tyrese Maxey fantasy points right here with Seth Curry being active. It's really hard for me to see him getting here unless he plays 40 minutes again. But I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think this team is going to be a lot deeper than normal than what we've seen recently. So I'm going to take the under on Tyrese Maxey. Let's throw it in with one other player. Let's throw it with the Precious Achiuwa over. So the under Tyrese Maxey 29.5 fantasy points with the Precious Achiuwa over 24 fantasy points. What's your thoughts on Svi? Yeah, so I think that there is, even though I just locked in an over on Precious Achiuwa, I think that Precious ends up playing around 28-30 minutes in this game, but when he is not out there on the court, I think that a lot of the time they're going to end up going small with either Chris Boucher or Scotty Barnes at the fives. Scotty Barnes more times than not. And so Svi Mykhailiuk will get extended minutes off the bench. This is all because Ken Birch and Pascal Siakam are out. So I think Svi, he's going to shoot when he's out there, and he has upwards, he could play 28-30 minutes. And I think that is a pretty damn good deal for him. So I like Svi quite a bit as a tournament option today. I think I prefer Craig over PJ if he is just going to be a fraction of the ownership. Obviously less minutes, but he has some actual upside and can have a ceiling. I mean, I guess Craig's but don't you feel like Craig's 3-point shooting upside is just as much as PJ Tucker? I mean, they're both sit in the corner kind of guys. If they're hitting their shots, I think it's fine. They will play well. But yeah, I mean, I get it. For a fraction of the ownership, I think it's worth a dart throw. I mean, Tucker and Duncan Robinson are going to be very highly owned. So if that's where you want to get I think if you are going to make pivots off the Miami Heat guys, it's obviously the values. It's not going to be Hero, Lowry, and Bam Adebayo. So that's probably where you make your pivot. So I think pivoting off of them to guys like Svi Mykhailiuk, Luke Kennard, Justin Holiday, I suppose, to an extent. I mean, I get where you're coming from for sure, though. I mean, or Jeremy Lamb. Jeremy Lamb gets hot. He could get extended minutes with no Karis LeVert, but the minutes really haven't been there for him at all this year. Clippers are Heat tonight. I got the Clippers there. Best contest to play on FanDuel with $25 spending limit. I don't know. I would play a single entry, though. If you're playing one lineup, make sure you're playing single entries. Will you do Craig or Tucker? I'm taking Tucker there. DK Cash, Lowry, Hero, Robinson, Tucker, Adebayo, Mykhailiuk, George, and Drummond. Love it. Barnes okay for Cash. Yeah, I mean, he's a good, like, cash play. I don't know how much his upside is right here, but, man, he's just plays so many minutes. I hate his price, though. That's the thing. It's a pricing thing. I think he's a good play. It's just his pricing's bad. Man or Batum, definitely man. Thoughts on Clarkson and utility? Yeah, Clarkson is an interesting tournament option. With him coming off the bench and how his rotation works, I don't think it really matters if this game ends up blowing out. I think there is a good likelihood that if they're blowing them out so bad that Donovan Mitchell just plays the entire third quarter, Clarkson will play into the fourth quarter without Conley or Mitchell, so he could have a lot of time without those guys on the court. He already leads it, or second in the team with a 28.6% usage rating. So I think Clarkson is an interesting like tournament option, and you don't really need to bring it back with anybody if you're just playing Clarkson. Maxey or Milton? Definitely Maxey. Lowry, Bledsoe, Ducker, Robinson, Tucker, Drummond, Hero, George, Jackson. Anything more than 3? Oh, whoops. Lowry, Drummond, Hero, George, Jackson, Smallfield, DK, GPP. I like it. With the Suns, Craig was actually very active at times. We just know PJ isn't going to bring anything more than corner threes. For sure. I mean, he just has so many opportunities to just like fall into fantasy points. He's like $3,100. It's just like so hard for him to bust here. I mean, I think that his floor here is probably like 20 fantasy points, because I think that he plays 35, 36 minutes. I mean, he really could score like 15, 17 points, obviously, but he's pretty much the bare minimum. But I guess from a pure tournament standpoint, you could go to Torrey Craig here. But man, I would literally hate to get burned by PJ Tucker. That would be the worst feeling. Because I just feel like PJ Tucker is going to be very annoying, where he just like picks up a random rebound, steal, block. Maxey dropped to 27.5, still good for the under. Yeah, I would still lean the under there, but not as good. I'm not sure how Maxey with Seth and Tobias playing. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't touch Maxey in DraftKings or FanDuel. I was taking the under on him over here on PrizePicks, and actually that did just drop to, let's take a look. Dropped to 27.5, so yeah. Looks like we beat PrizePicks, beat the board. Using Drummond, PG-13, Adebayo together with Hero. Yep, love it. That's the route I am going, Anson. Lowry, Hero, George, Tucker, Drummond, Bam, Robinson, and Svi. What you think? I think that might be what I'm running, so I like that. How do you feel about the over for all these games? The over? Nah, I've been like heavily on unders to begin the year. These games playing a lot slower. Kyle Lowry, Speed, Duncan Robinson, PJ Tucker, Drummond, Hero, PG, Bam, GPP, love it. Dragon, just not playing anymore as wild. They might as well trade the guy. Dude, remember when he got traded there? They were just saying how like, he was saying he's like, oh, I don't want to be here. And they were playing him like decent minutes to begin the year. And then Gary Trent Jr. starting over him. Because remember, Dragic started game 1. And then Gary Trent Jr. started like every other game. And then he eventually got phased out. Man, my favorite play on PrizePicks that we ever played was the under on Goran Dragic, where we caught that. And we got the under on like 23 fantasy points or something like that. And he only played like 10 minutes. So it's just like the easiest PrizePicks play to ever hit. Tucker or Craig? I like Tucker more. Clippers play on NBA TV tonight. Yeah, so you would think that maybe that's more of a chance that Bam Adebayo ends up playing. But the spread moving all the way up to 6 points is pretty worrisome for Bam Adebayo. I will say that, for his chances of playing. I still think that he plays, but yeah. So Drummond and Trent in cash, then wait for news. Yeah, I like Trent and Drummond for cash, yeah. Curry or Trent in showdown. I like Gary Trent more there. I only played 2 people for the first game, and all my other players are in this 10:30 game. Is that fine? Yep, I think that's definitely fine. Bam or Drummond on FanDuel? Man, that's tough. I mean, if we know Bam is playing, then it's Bam, but I'm playing both, personally. I would go ahead and lock in Drummond. Brandon, you're not wrong. I mean, this is what you get on a 3-game slate where we got injury news very early. But, you know, Bam Adebayo could sit, and then we're going to be making all the correct pivots while everybody else either doesn't get their pivots in and on time or they have no idea what they're doing. Yeah, 6.8K for Maxi's terrible. Taylor utility, 7,900 utility in 7,900 utility in Lowry or 6,500 utility in Brogdon. Definitely the Lowry side. And let me look at the utilities for you. I'd probably just take OG Anunoby here. Yeah, I would take Kyle Lowry and OG Anunoby there. I think that is a very strong point. Unless you don't have Bam Adebayo, because then I would go Lowry, Bam there. If Bam plays, can you still play Deadman? No, you can't. Remember the Cavs PrizePicks and preseason? Dude, I always go back and think about that situation, Matt, and we just really squandered such a great opportunity. You know what we could have done on PrizePicks? So I'll explain to you guys what Matt found. So Matt found really early on in the day and during the preseason that Bickerstaff said that the starters were only going to play one stint and play 6 to 8 minutes. And PrizePicks had their projections up on Evan Mobley and I believe it was Darius Garland at like 25, 27 fantasy points. So obviously they're going to hit the under. You know, all we had to do was take the under on both of them and then say this is Tyrese Maxey was on the slate. So we'll take the under on Garland and Mobley and then take the over on Maxey and then run the same exact thing except the under on Maxey, and then we would have just guaranteed ourselves profit because you 5x your money right here. So you could have ended up profiting just like an absurd amount of money if you just did that with a bunch of different players. Just because you're never really have an opportunity for that to happen where you have 2 locks on the slate. Yeah, we really squandered that opportunity. I ended up breaking even because I bricked on the other plays. Kind of frustrating. Tucker or Boucher on DK. I'm going to take Tucker there. Seems like Tucker only plays decent in primetime games. Kind of like Rondo. I haven't really noticed that, but makes sense. You like Duncan Robinson? Yeah, I love Duncan Robinson. Thoughts on McConnell and Miles Turner overs on PrizePicks? I would actually lean the unders. You know, I think there is a pretty good opportunity that this Pacers game blows out. So you could go ahead and take the unders on some of these guys. Man, Sabonis is down to 38.5. You would have to think that that kind of has the blowout risk baked into that price. But man, if the game blows out, I mean, they only get 3 quarters worth of run. Pretty easy to hit the under there. Like Batum, okay. I'm not really on Batum, but I will say that there is a pretty decent chance that this game ends up running small, and Batum would be the biggest benefactor to that. But from the Clip side, you know, I'm really just focusing on Bledsoe, Mann, Reggie Jackson, and Paul George. Any chance Boucher gets back into the rotation? Yeah, definitely a chance. There definitely is a chance. Matt actually sent me some quotes. Actually, let me bring it up. There were some quotes on Boucher. So, Nurse says Boucher needs to run, block shots, get on the glass, and score. Says he needs to get on track scoring-wise. So maybe when Boucher is out there, he has the green light to shoot. And, you know, whenever Chris Boucher is active, you know, good things are going to happen. I just really don't know what the minutes are going to be, and that's why he would be strictly a tournament option. So if you guys wanted to get off a guy like PJ Tucker, if Boucher can get out there, play well, Nurse will reward him with more minutes. And I think he actually matches up a bit better against Andre Drummond than most of the guys on this team. He's a bit lengthier. I mean, still quite a bit smaller than Andre Drummond, but interesting pivot. Yeah, dude, Matt. Like, I thought about that like a couple days later. I'm like, dude, we'd like mess that up so bad. I got like super greedy. I was like, man, I'm just gonna hit all these other picks with it. Do I pay up for Mitchell on FanDuel? So, yeah, if I was going to play Donovan Mitchell today, it would be on FanDuel. I think he's too cheap over there. Okay, I'll go Bamba. If we get news, go OG. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. Although OG starts in 20 minutes and Bam starts in almost 4 hours. So, is it fine to play if I play only 2 players this first game and all my other players on the last game? Yep, I think that's completely fine on a 3-game slate. Thoughts on Boban? Hey, man, you are just like the biggest Boban fan, huh? How high do you think Svi will be owned? Low owned. I think he'll be like, given it's a 10-game slate, he'll be higher owned than normal, but I'm thinking like 10% maybe. Hero and Svi or Trent Jr. and Man. Hero and Svi. Will Jazz cover spread tonight? I think so. I think that the Utah Jazz handled the Pacers tonight. Is Duarte a no-go? I think he's I'm not really considering him today, to be honest. Pacers have a very tough matchup tonight. Jazz in the regular season at full strength, just really not a team to be messed with. And the Pacers are just like not good. I mean, the Pacers just lost to the Sixers with no Embiid, Harris, Simmons, so I feel like Craig over Tucker is the only way to get a little different tonight, but my goodness, that's disgusting. I mean, yeah, it's like literally flipping a coin. And man, dude, I just feel like Tucker has more avenues to succeed, but at that ownership discrepancy, it might be worth it to pivot. Personally, I'm just gonna eat the chalk today. And honestly, I kind of hope Bam ends up sitting, because then I could pivot to correct plays. But yeah, Duncan Robinson or PJ Tucker. Duncan Robinson. What's your favorite pivot from all of the chalk tonight? Yeah, it's like really tough to get off any of the chalk guys. I mean, maybe get off Duncan or something and go to Svi. I mean, honestly, if you play all the chalk guys and then you play like one guy that's like 10% owned, I think that could be enough to be different on tonight's slate to make the difference. What about Tyrese Maxey? No, I'm not on Maxey with Seth Curry back. And then the band quotes were interesting. Yeah, but when I was reading into it, just to me personally, I just think that I don't think he's actively going to get Banton more minutes, because we know with the Raptors, they're going to run their starters like into the ground outside of Precious Achiuwa. So it really opens up just one spot. So what's the upside of Banton's minutes really? Because they still have to give Svi minutes. They have to give these other bench guys minutes as well. So I just don't think that there is a ceiling for Delano Banton to play like mid-20s minutes. I think he's just going to play teens minutes. They would just like have to kick somebody out of the rotation or just like not play Svi anymore. It's just like really hard for Banton to get those minutes. Bledsoe or Clarkson? Probably Clarkson right there. Bledsoe or Gary Trent? Definitely Trent. Brogdon or Mitchell. Curry or Trent Jr. on DK. I like Gary Trent more. Hero or Lowry on FanDuel? Like Lowry more. How much is too much to leave on the table if Bam is out? Yeah, I mean, we're going to end up leaving a lot of money on the table more times than not if Bam gets rolled out. But actually, it won't be that much, because we are so heavy on that game that we can pretty much just fill out our salary. But I already started writing up a note for Patreon in the case that that ended up missing. And Bam ends up missing that game. So we will be prepared. Is Batum chalky? I don't believe so. FanDuel, GBP, Reggie, or TJ McConnell. Let's go Reggie there. Wish Bam was power forward eligible on DK. I know. Him being power forward eligible on FanDuel makes things really easy, because if I had to choose between one of Andre Drummond and Bam Adebayo, it would just absolutely kill me. But on FanDuel, I could play both of them. I could play both of them on Draftkings as well, since you have a utility spot. When Craig gets run, he does very well. When Craig was on the Nuggets, he's a fantasy per minute monster, if I'm not mistaken. If he goes to see run tonight, you think Craig has never been a fantasy point per minute monster. Definitely better than PJ Tucker over the course of his career. But again, I mean, Karis LeVert was out last game and he only played 22 minutes. So not only does he have to get those minutes first, he also has to play well in those minutes. So, I mean, just a lot has to go right for Torrey Craig. But PJ Tucker, I mean, he's going to play big minutes. Like, I don't see any avenue for him not playing like 34 plus minutes tonight. Yeah, I mean, and it's a good matchup. You like Caleb Martin tonight on FanDuel? No, not really. Although he could possibly get the start tonight, and Hero could continue to come off the bench, but I'm not going to fall for that personally. And with no Bridge, they may run Precious hard too. Yeah, I think Precious probably plays around 28, 30 minutes tonight. And so we're going to see more Svi off the bench with Scotty Barnes at the 5. Scotty Barnes pay off that price tag on DK. I don't know. He's more of like a secondary play for me. I'm not considering Scotty Barnes in my own lineups. But at that price point, I mean, it just seems like he's probably priced appropriately. Maybe a little too much, but, you know, he's going to be different on this slate for sure. Is Bogdan playable on FanDuel? He usually does. No, Bogdan. Bojan Bogdanovic. No, I'd rather have Terrence Mann or Eric Bledsoe in that price range. He's a fantasy point monster. If Bam and Hero sit, there's kind of blowout risk. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Not from a reporter, but this guy tweeted under my response. Let me check out your DM. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would like if I'm not playing. If you want to pivot off of PJ Tucker, it'd probably be Chris Boucher for me. Because at least I can have a good time, and like if he plays like 5 minutes, at least I can have a good time watching him. Playing Torrey Craig, I might just want to off myself watching that. Who's Svi Mikhailuk for the Toronto Raptors? Actually, I'll bring him right here because kind of a difficult name. DK route stacked the last game. How much does Whiteside benefit from a blowout? I mean, that's real tough. Like a very thin play. I think Whiteside, how much is he actually? 4,300. I mean, like obviously he's so good per minute wise, but I mean if the game blows out, yeah, he's gonna get more minutes and he'd be viable. But it's not even like he's like 3K. He's $4,300. I can't really consider that, especially since he's the same price as Precious Achiuwa and at the same position as Drummond and Bam Adebayo. Kennard or Tucker. I'd probably still go Tucker there. So the obvious line given salaries on DK feels like Lowry, Speed, Duncan, PJ Drum, Hero, PG13, Bam. Am I missing something? You are not, Steph. Hero or Reggie, gonna be Hero for me. I hear poker chips. Yeah, I should probably not mess around with those around the mic. That might get loud. Yeah, man, that guy was like very direct. Reggie Jackson and Bam Adebayo or Barnes and Van Fleet. Let's go with the Bam Adebayo side. Mitchell or Drummond on DK. Man, I'd probably still go Drummond there, man. Do you still like the Raptors money line with Curry playing? Yeah. If I had to guess, I mean, it'd probably be Philly winning that game, but I think that there's a lot more value in Toronto. Duncan and Drummond or Fred VanVleet and Precious. Let's go with the Drummond and Duncan side. No PrizePicks tonight. There will be a PrizePicks play later. I'm kind of just waiting on news because there was nothing that really stuck out. I only want to post play. I don't want to post a play when I don't feel super confident in it. I want to make sure that I know. But once we get this Bam Adebayo news, I will be all over on a play for the Patreon. Better play DK Cash, Lowry, or Hero. Probably Lowry. The only fantasy producer with the last name Craig was Roger Craig in the 80s. Danny Green, a good play now that he's starting. I mean, yeah, I was about to say, I was like, Danny Green always starts, but I forgot. He came off the bench last game. Yeah, I'm not really considering Danny Green at all. Do you like Hartenstein? So, yeah, I mean, the Clippers, if they continue to run big, which they have the last 4 games, I mean, Hartenstein's been getting pretty good run off the bench. Obviously, a very good permanent producer. But I do think that there is a good likelihood that this game ends up running small, and Hartenstein could literally pick up a DNP tonight. I don't think that likely happens, but I think his minutes will be significantly cut down if they end up running small. Svi on FanDuel will find 2. Yeah, absolutely. Is 1,100 too much to leave on the table if Bam is out? No, I think that's fine. It's a 3-game slate. And there's just going to be a lot of value if Bam ends up sitting. Boucher for the savings are up to my precious. For cash games, definitely precious. Definitely precious. Drummond, 2 Raptors, and then stack the late game. Moolah, let's get it, man. Why Svi over Boucher? I feel like Raptors have no one else to back up Precious. Well, I mean, they have to give... I mean, Scotty Barnes will get run, too, at the 5. They will run small. I mean, they're going to be running small anyways, so they can run Scotty at the 5, which would open up more minutes for Mikhailuk. Boucher has been playing mostly backup 4 minutes, not the 5. But we haven't really seen a scenario like this. Bledsoe or Clarkson? FanDuel GBP going to be Clarkson. Did you cash your 2-pick of Joval and Allen last night? How did that go? I think the projection was 37 or Allen. I think he got 39. Right. Yeah, so that if you guys tailed my PrizePicks play in yesterday's stream, once we got the news that Brandon Ingram was out, we went ahead and slammed the over on Joval and Jared Allen, and they both ended up hitting, so we 3x'd our money right there. And again, guys, if you guys want to tail me over on PrizePicks, I give away plays for free all the time in my Discord, as well as my YouTube videos and my live streams. Use code Taylor, TAYLOR, for a 100% match bonus up to $100. Top point guards on FanDuel. I like Reggie Jackson quite a bit. Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero. Zubac's in play. I think Zubac's definitely in play. I mean, if they continue, we just don't know what they are going to do, what Tyler's going to do in this matchup. It makes sense for them to go small here, so that would be bad for Zubac's, but they have played Zubac's quite a bit, and Hartenstein pretty much all 48 of the center minutes the last 4 games. So if that trend continues, then Zubac's is definitely in play. He's about a fantasy point per minute guy. Will play about 28-30 minutes if they run big, but they could definitely go small, and then his minutes could get cut down to like 22-24. Back-to-back Bam sitting is likely, I think, but they are coming off a tough loss. Hard to say. Yeah, it is hard to say. Do you have to lock in Precious? No, you don't need to lock in Precious at all. I think not at all, because I think Bam Adebayo and Drummond are like the clear top center options today. When will you know if Bam is playing? I don't know. I mean, he's likely going to head down to a game time decision, so I'm expecting like an hour, 30 minutes to an hour before that game ends up locking, before we know. 3,500 DK cash utility. PJ Tucker, if you don't already have him. Oh, then Svi Mikhailuk. I got Lowry, Hero, George, Drummond, and Bam in a DK lineup. Yep, I think that's really good. Hero versus Trent, definitely Hero. Top PrizePicks. I kind of just went over that. There's really nothing that sticks out right now. We did just hit the under on Tyrese Maxey, 29.5 fantasy points, and I already moved down to 27.5. If I had any leans right now, I would hit the over Precious at 24 fantasy points. I also like Gary Trent over 24.5 fantasy points. I still like the Paul George over 44 fantasy points. And actually a good... Oh, they took Bam off. That's sad. If you guys watched my video, I was on Bam. So I was going to say you can correlate with playing Paul George and Kyle Lowry. But that's not as enticing as Bam. Yeah. I mean, I really like the Paul George over. If you guys want to play right now, I mean, I think Paul George over 34 or 44 fantasy points and the Precious over 24 is nice. How many minutes for Boucher tonight? Yeah, I mean, it's anyone's guess. It's like impossible. Danny Green, Achua, or Duncan and Gary Trent Jr. on DKGBP. Let's go with Duncan and Gary Trent. Boucher over Tucker. I'm taking a stand. Wish me luck. Hey, good luck, man. Like, I hope it works out for you, honestly. Because I hate PJ Tucker chalk. It's just he's $3,100. It's just like, it's in cash games, you just can't avoid him, really. In tournaments, I think going to Chris Boucher is pretty sharp. McConnell, Sabonis, or Lowry and Anunoby. Definitely Lowry and Anunoby for me. Precious or Bledsoe. Probably Bledsoe. I think his upside's a lot higher. Would you do a 3 or 4 picks of those picks you just mentioned tonight? Yeah, I mean, like, these picks are right now are like very sharp right now. I don't think that there's really any value. I'm kind of just waiting for the Bam Adebayo news because then I can start hitting other stuff. I also don't mind the Zubats under. YCB over Boucher, I kind of just went over that. Just there's no certainty that Boucher plays big minutes or any minutes. There's just no certainty. Paul George, a definite tail off Taylor. I love Paul George. I've played Paul George pretty much every slate he has been on. Won me all the monies. Larry, Hero, George, Tucker, Bam, Robinson's feed, Drummond on DK. I like it. This is the same injury for Bam that he's dealing with in playing through all but one game. He has been questionable for a lot of them when suited up. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, I talked about it in my video. I feel like I talk about it every time the heater on in my video is like, oh, well, he's questionable with the same bruised knee. You know, he played all but 2 minutes of the second half in overtime game last night. I don't think that the injury would keep him out. I think that they could rest him, but not for the reason of the bruised knee. McConnell, Sabonis, or Lowry and Anunoby. Definitely the Lowry and Anunoby side. Remember when we thought Bam would be out and was downgraded and he still played with the knee listing? Yeah. And that wasn't too long ago, like 2 weeks ago. If somehow we get the news that Bam is out before the Indiana-Utah game, start any plays you like more than that game. He doesn't. So, yeah, I mean, if he was ruled out, you could just, like, make some pivots around, try to get to, like, Brogdon and Donovan Mitchell with the new value from the Miami Heat side. He doesn't play back-to-backs. That's the question. Who doesn't? See how the views versus your likes you get. It's like the most YouTubers, it's only like 10% of the views. It's sad and unfortunate. Do you know why that is? I don't know, man. Well, I think a lot of people that end up watching these streams just watch, and you don't need to be signed into a YouTube account. And if you don't have a YouTube account, you can't like or subscribe or comment or anything like that. Is Mike Conley playing? Yeah, Mike Conley should be playing. Yeah, I think he was talking about somebody else. Are Svi and Boucher somewhat of a conflict of interest minutes-wise or not? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think Svi and Precious are conflicts as well. So that's why on FanDuel we're playing Luke Kennard. I think the upside is higher with playing Luke Kennard. Hopefully that game goes small. He plays 30-plus minutes, shooting well. And then Precious plays more minutes at the 5. Playing them together just doesn't make very much sense from a correlation standpoint. So that's why, if you guys were wondering, why we were playing Luke Kennard straight up over Svi. Bam usually plays back-to-backs. He is Al Horford. How is Reggie, Lowry, Hero, Duncan, George, Mann, Barnes, Achua, Drummond, GPP, FanDuel? I like that a lot. I like having some Terrence Mann exposure for sure. You're literally subscribed under 2 accounts. Shout out to you, Sean. Appreciate that, man. CV is leverage over Precious on DK. Yep. Hero questionable tag. Yep. And he was questionable yesterday. I think he is going to be good to go. All right, guys. It is lock time. I appreciate you guys being here. How many games have we got tomorrow on tap? So NBA was kind enough to give us 2 3-game slates, which is a lot less to work for me than a 13 game sandwich in between. And then we get 1 2 3 4 5 8 9 11 games tomorrow. So another big slate tomorrow. If they can't they just make all these slates like in between 6 and 9 games? That would be real nice. All right, guys. Best of luck tonight, guys. I appreciate you guys being in here. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like button on your way out. I'm here every single day, dropping my video in the morning as well as my live stream an hour before lock every single day. But I appreciate you guys being here. Best of luck tonight. See you guys at the top of the leaderboards.